Hi there and welcome back to another episode of Laptop Retrospective, and today I wanted to have a specific conversation with regards to how the Surface Book 2 is kind of acting as my professional work computer. So at the job that I currently have, I am using a computer pretty much 24/7, and having your own hardware, as you will know, comes with certain advantages, and we could almost do a separate video on that, so we're not going to go into that too terribly here. As many of you are coming from not necessarily the brand new MacBooks, but maybe your old and trusty ones, you know, many of you are looking at this machine and saying, you know, it's Windows 10, it's Microsoft, there's a lot of concessions that you feel you're probably making that transition, and I fully understand that kind of feeling of apprehension. This environment is a very safe environment to be in, but it's also good to branch out, not only based on your needs, but based on, you know, availability of certain technologies. So I wanted to do a short little video that essentially says, well, is there anything that, now that I've used this for about 3 weeks, that I miss about this? So I wanted to go through just a couple of things that matter to me, that might matter to you if you are making this switch or making the switch from a different device entirely. So the first one that needs to be really discussed, of course, is that it has a magnetic charger, and I've already made a video on what I think of the charger, and it's not the best piece of engineering, I think, when you compare it to the actual unit itself, and I'll leave a little card right there if you want to check out my somewhat ranty video on that. Battery life is actually quite good, even in the tablet portion alone, not including what used to be called the performance base. You're not going to get the 15 or 17 hours that they claim if you're actually using this for productivity tasks, but if you had to do an 8 or a 10-hour day doing moderate use, you could probably leave the charger at home. That being said, I'm always hesitant to use the phrase leave the charger at home, because you never know maybe what you have to do at work, and if you need that extra performance and it sucks your battery and you don't have that charger, that's a problem. In terms of just the interface, how you interact with this computer, this is amazing. I really need to stress that. In my initial impressions, I talked about the keyboard and the trackpad. I have fallen even more deeply in love with both of those. Many people will say MacBooks will always have, in terms of computers, the best trackpads. And you know what? That might be true. But man, oh man, is this a great trackpad. With Windows 10 now supporting gestures, I found the transition between the two systems to be fairly effortless. I could still do certain gestures that I had been trained to do on this machine and get similar or identical results on Windows. I could also customize which gestures did certain actions within the settings, which is an additional function that the MacBook, I don't believe, has had. So there are some advantages and concessions there. And it is a personal preference thing. I know that there will be many of you that say, sorry, don't agree with you, MacBook trackpads are the best. That's okay. But this trackpad did not make me miss this computer. And that is the point that I want to make with this particular video. The keyboard is probably one of the best non-mechanical keyboards I have typed on. And I know that's going to be heresy to those that love ThinkPads, especially the older 7-row keyboards, but man, is this good to type on. Like, it's not old school good, but it's really, really good. I think that if you are particular about keyboards, you would not be disappointed using this. The screen. It's a 4:3. It's got a, you know, very high pixel density. It's great. Text is enormously sharp, and that is really, really cool. I find it even sharper than my Retina screen on my MacBook Pro, and it just looks clean. It's easy on the eyes. The brightness to me is quite excellent. Blacks are very dark, colors are very crisp, and it's just overall a very pleasurable experience. It certainly says that it fits the quality, I think, of the rest of the machine that we see. This is also, I think, a really important point to make, and that is 13-inch or 15-inch. There's a lot of different ways you could sway on that. I went with the 13.5-inch, and it is smaller in every way than, say, the MacBook. Like, just in comparison, this is a MacBook Retina 2013. There's a sizable chunk of difference, not so much in height, but in terms of how much screen real estate you're getting this way. Do I miss it? And the answer is no, I don't. So does that mean that the 15-inch is worth the money? If you really are going to use that 1060, then perhaps, but if not, I would strongly consider checking out that 13.5-inch. Don't rule it out. You might not go that way, but seriously consider it. I really, really would. And in terms of weight, I know that the Surface Book 2 gets a lot of flack for how heavy it is in comparison to like Thin and Lights, and I don't know, maybe it's because I'm not from that school of thought, but to me, it's not actually that bad. About 1.66 kilos plus or minus 10 grams. But we'll call it 2 kilograms, we'll round down. So it's about a 400 gram difference. I am totally okay with that because it is still lighter than this. And it's nice and compact. It fits in pretty much every single bag that I own, and there's something to be said for that. The hinge, as I've tested in a separate video, which I suppose I can card up there, also doesn't really wobble that much when using the touchscreen. I have also seen reports that people are concerned about, well, is this really a laptop, because the screen is essentially just as heavy as the base, and there is a little bit of truth to that, like, let's be fair. So if I were to go ahead and set up one of my well-known non-scientific experiments, so as you can see, it's not quite a perfect balance, but as I try to nudge it, the weight is quite significant. Like, I can lay it down on the screen and have the keyboard essentially act as the screen. The two halves are fairly equally weighted, and that is by design. If anything, the base is going to be ever so slightly heavier to alleviate some of that tip forward. There are a lot of things about this computer that make it very easy to make the switch from here. And the only other one that I would point out that is more of a software thing that I missed was actually the Finder in iOS. I really missed the column view. However, in a separate video, which I'll be releasing hopefully soon, I think I found a tool that will alleviate that problem. If you have any questions about the Surface Book 2, specifically the 13.5-inch, please, I would encourage you to ask your questions in the comments below. I try to answer every question that I possibly can, and if it requires some legwork on my part, or maybe a separate video, I'll certainly consider that as well. But if I can answer it, I would gladly do that for you. And if this is the sort of content that you enjoy seeing, I would encourage you to perhaps, hit that subscribe button, show your support. I would certainly appreciate it, especially as we move toward the big 1,000 subscribers. I'll see you next time.